Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be showing you how to install a badass tent roof rack on your 4-door Bronco. Alrighty folks, if I am not mistaken, you are watching this video for one of three reasons. One, you've already bought the product and you're looking for a good install video and explanation. Two, you aren't quite sold on the product yet, but you're looking for as much info as possible so you can make an educated purchase. And three, you're here for general product information and research so you can stay up to date with any and all products for the Ford Bronco. And a bonus reason is maybe you're just bored. Well, in today's video, I hope to serve all of those needs. So without further ado, let's dive into that install. So the first step of this install is to obviously lay out all of your parts, get a feel for what you're actually dealing with. As you start laying these out, you really want to pay attention to the labeling that Badass Tents has included on a lot of these parts. You don't just want to start peeling stuff off and chucking stuff away, because then you're gonna lose track of which piece is which, especially with this bar, but also with these mounts here. So we're gonna kind of explain a little bit of that before we start bolting some stuff together. The first being these bars. All of these bars are labeled 1 through 6, and as you can see, they are different sizes. So you're definitely not gonna want to install these incorrectly. If for some reason you do end up peeling stickers off, or maybe it got lost in the packaging or whatever, the longest one is the front and it just gets shorter towards the end. So those are the crossbars. Now we need to talk about the center and rear brackets. On the packaging that the bracket comes wrapped in, you'll see either a C or an R. C being for center, R being for rear. Very easy to understand, folks. If you end up forgetting that, if you look on the back of these brackets, you'll see a notch in the rear one that you will not see in the center one. So that's a dead giveaway if you forget that. The center one is a little bit longer, as you can see. So it's not hard to keep all of this stuff organized as long as you know what you're looking for. These instructions that the kit comes with are really good. This video just kind of serves as a visual explanation of what's going on in this instruction kit. So with that said, once you have everything laid out on the table, you can start bolting stuff together. So that's what we're gonna do right now.
The first step is to lay each component out in their approximate location. Again, this is just going to help keep everything organized. Once everything is laid out, use the included M6 bolts to begin bolting the rail to the crossbar. As always, it's a good idea to start the screws by hand to avoid cross-threading. You can use a power tool to zap them down after. Now, because this rack is aluminum, one tip is to do the final tightening by hand rather than with a power tool to ensure you don't strip any of the hardware.
So once you have done crossbars 1 through 4, you're gonna start working on number 5. If you take a good look at the instructions, then this isn't very complicated, but again, we're just here to explain some of this all a little bit better. So you are gonna grab your center bracket and you're gonna slide it right up next to the long rail.
Next, place your 2 rear rails in place with the slotted piece towards the outside. Run 2 screws through the outside holes of the 3 pieces of aluminum and screw the nut onto the end. Use the longer screws included to bolt the crossbar to the rail. Repeat the process with the rear bracket.
Alrighty folks, so once you have the one side bolted up, that's kind of where I like to stop, because this is actually what clamps the rack to your roof. So complete one side, leave it kind of loose so that you can adjust some stuff as needed. And then what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna want to assemble the rear piece with the nut and the bolt, and then the 2 pieces like so. And you're just gonna wanna have this ready. For right now, we're gonna go ahead and get this rack and throw it on top, and then start kind of really cinching this thing down.
Before installing the rack, remove the front windshield caps.
Technically, you actually don't even need this. You can just get it with your finger. Oh well.
Don't forget to remove the cap retainer.
We're ready to put that rack on.
Now is a good time to get a buddy or two to help you position the rack on the Bronco. Once in place, slide the provided padding between the rack brackets and the roof.
Next, bolt the front of the rack to your windshield. You can use your stock nuts, but Badass Tents recommends using their supplied fasteners to ensure your rack is fully secure. Now your rack is 80% installed. What you're gonna do now is grab this passenger side, make sure that stuff is peeled off underneath the bracket, and you've got the extra padding on. You're just gonna work on getting these brackets in place. Make sure that this thing goes underneath, in between the rail and the crossbar. Get them into the slot in the hardtop. All right, now once everything looks to be in place, you're gonna grab your screw and a nut. You're gonna start working on getting these two outside holes all bolted together. All right, now all that's left to do is run your main screws. One tip that I would give you is don't tighten the other side all the way. That way you can, it makes it a lot easier to pull this thing in, get a few threads started, and then just kind of go back and forth on each side and cinch it down. At this point, your rack should be fully secure on the top of the vehicle. Now you're just gonna go around and hand tighten every single one of these bolts, including the ones in the front that hold the rack to your windshield, and then we will start working on putting those beauty pieces on the front. So now it is time to install the wind deflector if you want to. All right, so the first thing that you're gonna do to install your wind deflector is take the two nuts off the front rack so that you can lift this thing. And you're just gonna kind of get it out of the way and off of the two bolts in the windshield. And then you are going to take your Allen head bolts all the way out of the front crossbar. Next, what you're gonna do is you are going to get 5 of these little cross nuts, or T-nuts some people will call them, and you're just gonna slide it into the first channel in your crossbar. All right, and then what you could do is you could just get one of your bolts or an Allen wrench or something, and just kind of send these down, spread them out. What you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna end up lining them up with the holes in your windshield deflector. Once those are in, you can tighten your crossbar back up and cinch everything back down, and then you're gonna wanna clean this front surface of your windshield.
Cleaning the windshield surface is extremely important, so once you give a good wipe down, use an alcohol wipe to really ensure proper adhesion.
All right guys, so now we are going to install the front covers before we put the wind deflector on. All that takes is a couple of the bolts that you slide in from the side, and then the fun part is fandangling some of these nuts inside of your rack.
You can now begin aligning the T-nuts in the crossbar with the holes in the wind deflector.
Once your T-nuts are lined up, pull the deflector back off and use a bolt and 2 rubber washers to sandwich the deflector like so. Do this for all 5 holes. Next, set your wind deflector back in place and begin tightening the bolts into the T-nuts. It's important to make sure you don't cinch all of these down until they're all started. Once they're all started, you can go back through, and probably best to start in the middle and tighten, then just work your way out. And the last thing to complete the rack install is to get the 3M tape and just start slowly peeling it back as you put some pressure on the front. And there you go. With just a couple nuts and bolts, you can have a low profile, very good looking, and very functional rack installed on your new Bronco. Now, just how functional are we talking? Well, let's dive into some of those features I promised. So starting off, this rack boasts a 650 static weight limit. Next, you can easily remove both front panels with the rack installed. On top of that, the rack includes both the wind deflector and cosmetic pieces for the front, and with no vehicle modification required, as you saw in the install portion of this video, it has never been easier to install a rack on your vehicle. One last thing to mention is this rack is version 2.0. That means this rack went through some major updates, including a whopping 20 pounds shaved in weight, yet an over 50-pound increase in capacity over the first version. And I lied, there is one more very important point to mention, and that is the fact that this rack is made in the USA. So there you guys go, the Badass Tents 4-door roof rack. Don't forget to check out the array of accessories available for this rack, including the Molly Rotopax mounting brackets and the Molly plate that makes storing your extra gear that much easier. You can find all of these products and more by visiting wildhorses4x4.com. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, become one of the horsemen. We would love to have you. And with all of that being said, we will see you guys out there on the trail. Peace!